The Community Foundation has been the backbone of this community for the 50 years that they've been in existence. If it wasn't for the Community Foundation, we wouldn't have the resources to meet the needs of the people.
We are so blessed to be able to call the Community Foundation our partner as we move forward in breaking the cycle of homelessness. You know, we can't imagine our work without the Community Foundation. They have been with us, they have been with me since day one.
So I've worked with Adopt a Family for 20 years, and as long as I can remember as being a team member here at this agency, the Community Foundation has been a part of our fabric, of our DNA. The Community Foundation has helped us build housing, has helped us build staff, and most importantly has helped us build community.
Without the Community Foundation support, we are not able to do what we do. We currently serve over 850 families every month, providing different services. And thanks to Community Foundation, we are able to continue that.
The Community Foundation I believe, is on the forefront of really looking at the needs of the most vulnerable and at-risk populations here in our community and responding in innovative and meaningful ways and helping them meet the challenges that they face.
I know when I got here 12 years ago, the first foundation that I made contact was the Community Foundation of Palm Beach and Martin County.
A lot of students really choose different tracks because they are afraid that they won't be able to afford college. Because of Community Foundation and their supporters, students like me are able to go to college.
This is going to help me so much, and really just remembering like these people are investing in my future and like how much that meant to me, and it just made me want to continue the snowball of kindness that the Community Foundation had showed me.
I think that when you talk about donors, it's so important to have consistency, and that's where the Community Foundation has stepped in. The impact is immeasurable. They're changing lives, they're saving lives around the county. Of course, we want to wish the Community Foundation congratulations for your 50-year milestone.
Happy 50th anniversary to Community Foundation.
You're there for us when we need you. Continue doing what you're doing. Wishing you another great, wonderful 50 years to come.
Keep up the amazing work that you do to help the community.
For 50 years to be able to not only sustain a Community Foundation, but to be able to benefit from the philanthropy that flows from them is outstanding. 50 years of that, here's to 50 more.
And thank you for all that you've done as a resident of Palm Beach County. I'm incredibly grateful for everything that you've done. And as an employee of Adopt a Family, we are always grateful for what you do. Thank you and happy birthday.
On behalf of the Community Foundation for Palm Beach and Martin Counties, welcome one and all to our annual Founders Luncheon. I am Julie Fisher Cummings, and I am privileged to serve our community along so many of you.
And I am Danita Nias, President and CEO. Julie and I have the distinct pleasure of serving as your co-host this afternoon. Thank you for joining us in celebrating this very important milestone.
As you saw in our opening video, we are honoring 50 years of philanthropic support for the incredible people and programs dedicated to making Palm Beach and Martin counties a vibrant place to live for all. Today is about celebrating the indelible impact that our donors, our nonprofit and impact partners, our grantees, and our student scholars have had over the past 5 decades.
Before we begin, we would like to take a moment to recognize the Mayor of Palm Beach County, Robert Weinroth. Mr. Mayor, where are you? Thank you for your service to the county, and thank you for being here today. We would also like to take a moment to acknowledge our sponsors for today's Golden Anniversary event. In particular, our founding sponsor, the Marjorie S. Fisher Fund, and Julie and Peter Cummings. Our community sponsor this afternoon is Northern Trust. Our supporting sponsors are Sherry and Tom Barrett, George Elmore and Marty Latour, Marjorie M. Fisher and Roy Furman, Beth Newhoff and Steve Frank, the Stoops Family Foundation, and Meredith Trim. Our media sponsors are Palm Beach Illustrated, the Palm Beach Post, the Palm Beach Daily News, and WLRN. It is because of all of you that we are able to celebrate this very special milestone in the Community Foundation of Palm Beach and Martin County's history. On behalf of everyone here, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Throughout the past 50 years, the Community Foundation has facilitated and inspired meaningful philanthropy to meet our community's ever-changing needs. And we have served as a steadfast ally in growing and strengthening our nonprofits that are on the front line. Together, we are able to tackle the causes and consequences of our community's unmet needs. That means addressing our most pressing challenges, from mental health to housing, food insecurity to disaster relief, education to early childhood. We aspire to ensure opportunity for all through the transformative power of philanthropy. And throughout our 50 years, it has been the people in this room, our supporters, partners, and change makers, all of you, who have helped us establish a legacy of leadership in Palm Beach and Martin counties.
And that legacy includes advancing the impact of over 3,000 organizations over the years. Our inaugural grant 50 years ago is an example of the true effect of our work. In 1972, we granted $2,500 to the Center for Information and Crisis Services, later named the 211 Helpline. It was the beginning for both of our organizations. 211 was founded by Dr. Robert Alsofrum, a prominent psychologist and local mental health expert. He helped countless people in our area deal with everything from drug and alcohol abuse to depression. In the 1970s, he was in such high demand in our community that he began building on a very big idea: to train volunteers who could staff a hotline to help 24/7. And that hotline became a lifeline. Today, 211 has grown to cover 5 South Florida counties. Let's take a closer look at 211's journey with a short video.
When people reach out to 211, they are usually very stressed and overwhelmed. We hear a huge variety of things when we pick up that phone, and it might be that I'm worried about my mom, she's getting forgetful, I don't know what to do. We've heard people say, I don't have food in the house, I can't feed my kids. We have heard from a lot of people who are struggling with addiction, mental health challenges, and we do get calls from people who are at the point where they are at the end of their rope and tell us they don't want to live anymore, and we are able to talk them through those dark times.
The COVID situation has made it even worse, where people call in just to talk. We lend our ears, and we treat them with respect, and we love people when they call us.
They're lonely. Most of these people live alone. A lot of them have outlived their family and friends. Sometimes they'll tell us ours is the only voice they hear all day. And sometimes they'll sing the "You Are My Sunshine" to us.
The Community Foundation gave us our first step towards professionalizing the organization and getting our work stabilized. From that first $2,500 award all the way to the organization that we are now at a $4 million budget, responding to over 100,000 requests for help every single year. I would say to our community of donors that we cannot do this work without you. Without the donors supporting the work, we couldn't answer the phone every day. So please know how vital you are to making sure that our community's needs are met.
Is just one of thousands of organizations in Palm Beach and Martin counties that have been sustained by philanthropy over the years. And we've invited a few of our recent and long-standing grantees to give voice to their own tales of transformation today. We will first hear from one of our grantees in Martin County, Rob Ranieri, the CEO of House of Hope.
Congratulations and thank you to the Community Foundation for 50 years of impact and leadership. The fact that you treat us as agencies, as partners, and you treat your grants as investments has helped us to maximize the benefit for the clients and neighborhoods that we serve in Martin County. A perfect example of this is our Golden Gate Center for Enrichment. You shared our enthusiasm and excitement for this project, and your multi-year commitment, along with the clout that you bring to us as a true agent of change, helped us connect other donors to this project. Since its inception, just a few years ago, even despite COVID, we've served over 2,000 people and provided over 13,000 services focused on health and nutrition, education, job skills and job training, the arts, and more. That couldn't have been possible without the leadership and support of the foundation. We appreciate all that you do, and we're looking forward to 50 more years.
Thank you, Rob. Next, we'll hear from Dupree Jackson, founder and executive director of the EJS Project.
The EJS Project mission is to build and empower tomorrow's leaders. We do that by providing group mentoring, out-of-school programming for teenagers. We all are familiar with the old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, I like to say the same holds true for growing and starting a grassroots nonprofit. In 2014, I founded the EJS Project, and much like Winsome and Michael McIntosh in 1972, all I had was a vision and a dream and a lot of faith. The vision was to positively impact my community and the lives of its youth. I would oftentimes visit the websites of some of the county's biggest funders, and I'll write down the name of some of their employees, you know, with the hopes of introducing myself and sharing the work of the EJS Project. Fast forward to today, and I am blessed to be standing before you, sharing a little bit about how one of those funders has helped us to serve hundreds of teens and their families in one of the most underserved communities in Delray Beach. I sincerely thank the Community Foundation for embracing us as part of their village. Over the years, you have given us a voice and been an advocate for us in rooms and at tables that we weren't even aware of. Being someone that was born and raised in my city's vulnerable footprint, I knew that would be an uphill battle for the EJS Project to provide a high level of quality service for my neighbors and I who needed it and deserved it. However, I had faith and was fortunate enough to gain a partner like the Community Foundation. Today, much like the Community Foundation, we are a beacon of hope in our community and hope to be so for years to come. I am so thankful and count it as a blessing to have the Community Foundation as a partner on this journey. Congratulations on 50 years of visionary leadership, and we're all wishing you many, many more. Thank you.
Thank you, Dupree. Our next grantee is Ruth Magaria, and she's the Executive Director of Cross Ministries.
Thank you, Danita. Cross Ministries serves the hungry in Palm Beach and Martin counties through community collaborations. I am especially grateful to the Community Foundation for the care that they have given Cross, especially during times of disasters like the hurricanes or even COVID-19. When we think about Palm Beach County and the food insecure that are about 200,000, those are difficult times when people have to make choices. Do I buy food or do I pay my rent? Do I put gas in my car to get me to work or do I pay for medication for my children? And because of grants from the Community Foundation, we've been able, as Cross Ministries, last year in 2021, to serve over 75,000 individuals who are our neighbors, our friends, our brothers, and our sisters. I also want to say a very special thank you again to the Community Foundation and a number of funders that are seated here in this room. On behalf of the nonprofit chamber, of which I'm a member, you were able to put together some monies and create the Help the Helpers Fund that helped our nonprofits and especially the staff who had gone over and above during COVID and still do even today, for us to, as CEOs and executive directors, to show that we cared and that you care for our staff. Thank you so much, and wishing you another 50 years and more. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. Finally, we'll hear from Keith Muniz, President and CEO of the Arc of Martin County.
Thank you. At the Arc of Martin County, our mission is to empower children and adults with disabilities to achieve their fullest potential. And that's exactly what the Community Foundation of Palm Beach and Martin County has done for us over the years. They've empowered us to empower them. Mainly, this has been through our employment program, where they've invested in our job coaches to train and work with people with disabilities to help them acquire long-term employment outcomes. When you have a job, money in your pocket, you can make decisions, where you live, where you work, where you spend your money. So we thank them for that. More recently, they've invested in our social enterprise. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we created Advanced Environmental Services, where we train people with disabilities to go into commercial buildings and spray with electrostatic sprayers and kill COVID-19 barriers. All right? So since then, we've acquired 7 contracts and employed 12 people with disabilities. So we thank them for the long-term investment, and we look forward to partnering with you for the next 50 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Keith. Let's give a hand to these grantees who work tirelessly on behalf of our community to address its most pressing needs. Thank you all. In addition to sustaining our nonprofit partners, the Community Foundation has also had a long-standing commitment to ensuring access to higher education. Our scholarship program began in 1985, and it is a tangible investment in our community's future leaders. Since then, donors have created hundreds of scholarship funds specifically for Palm Beach and Martin County high school students, high school seniors, who don't lack ambition or smarts. They simply lack resources to propel them forward. One of those students is Jasmine Lopez, who grew up in Belglade, an area with one of the largest opportunity gaps in the county. Let's take a look at Jasmine's story.
And I've just always seen this hard work ethic of theirs. It's like, I know they've sacrificed a lot, and it's like, it's what keeps me going sometimes. They have took so many sacrifices for me and my siblings to have these opportunities that they couldn't have. They didn't have access to education, and they didn't know 2 languages growing up. That's why education has always been something that I'll prioritize because of them. My name is Jasmine Lopez. I'm 19 years old. I am studying environmental science, and I'm hoping to grasp a better knowledge of, how our environment works, how everything affects each other, like the weather, the ecosystem.
De todo lo ves, sacas lo positivo, lo bueno. No ves lo malo. Si hay algo que pasa malo, que yo lo puedo ver malo, tú lo ves, sacas lo bueno siempre.
Belgrade is just like build upon agriculture. It's like what we're doing around here. It's really amazing. We're helping feed lots of people. But along the way, I've learned that, some of these agriculture practices are taking a toll on our environment. I did struggle with envisioning me in college, and it was all new to us. I wasn't, familiar with what's like after high school. Without the Community Foundation scholarship, I don't think I would have gone to Florida State University. What I hope to do is take agriculture a more innovative way so that we can have less impact on the environment, so that people like my dad and my brother can work to help feed millions and still be helping the environment at the same time.
Y hace mucho, pues sus esfuerzos ha llegado donde está, y con la ayuda de las organizaciones y la gente que dona para esta organización, ella está logrando lo que ella quiere y le pone mucho.
Jasmine, please stand up with your parents and let this audience celebrate you and your family.
To show the breadth and reach of our impact over 50 years, would you please stand and remain standing if you received a Community Foundation academic scholarship like Jasmine?
Please stand and remain standing if you received a Community Foundation grant.
Please stand and remain standing if you worked alongside us as a nonprofit or civic partner.
Please stand and remain standing if you gave your time as a volunteer.
Please stand and remain standing if you gave your talents as a board member, former board member, or an employee of our organization.
Please stand and remain standing if you have advised a donor to invest with us.
Please stand and remain standing if you gave your treasure as a philanthropic donor.
And please stand and remain standing if you have joined us today as someone who lives here, works here, and cares about this corner of paradise.
You can tell that Danita used to be a cheerleader. Now she's cheering all of us on.
That's exactly right.
Take a look around. You are all part of our family and part of the Community Foundation story, the Palm Beach and Martin County story, and the South Florida success story. Please join us in raising your glass for a toast. Here's to 50 more years.
Hear, hear. Friends, we have more to share this afternoon, but we know how hungry you all must be, so we're going to take a short break for lunch. Bon appetit. Okay.
As we celebrate our golden anniversary today, it's important that we recognize the strength of our staff, who have devoted their time and talents to the Community Foundation's mission. We are delighted that several former employees have joined us here today. But one person in particular who we want to honor is a current employee who has served in her role for 22 years, nearly half of our history. Sandra Reed, the office administrative assistant, is a smiling face that greets you when you arrive. But her role is greater than that. She keeps us organized, effective, and responsive behind the scenes. Sandra has been described by her peers as the heart and soul of the organization, thanks to her generous spirit and her kind and calm constitution, which she credits to her upbringing in Jamaica. And Sandra has done a little bit of everything over the years, from processing gifts to chronicling our history. She was critical to the completion of the brief history of the Community Foundation booklets that are on your table today. Sandra, please stand up. I want to join in recognizing. We have an incredible staff, and they make us look so good. Oh my gosh, they're so dedicated.
We would also like to recognize a couple of more people here today. We call them the First Ladies of the Foundation. First is Shannon Sadler Hull, the first full-time executive director of the Community Foundation in 1982. Yes, that deserves a big hand. Woo! Shannon led the foundation as president and CEO for 28 years. Now listen to this. During her tenure, she oversaw massive expansion for the organization. The Scholarship Fund program, changing our name and our operating area, which includes Martin County. Transformational gifts from the MacArthur and Pew Foundations. A new headquarters in downtown West Palm Beach, where we still operate today. And thousands upon thousands of lives changed and friendships forged. When Shannon retired in 2009, she became Chairman Emeritus and has supported the foundation to this day. Shannon could not be with us today, but we know that we would not be celebrating 50 years without her guiding hand. Her daughter, Courtney, though, is here today. Courtney, please stand so that we can acknowledge what your mother has done and continues to do for this community. Thank you, Courtney.
The other First Lady of the Foundation has joined us today from Washington, D.C., and she is our guest of honor, Winsome McIntosh. In the early 70s, Winsome and her husband, Michael, moved from New York to the Palm Beaches. Their big idea to start the Community Foundation took shape after Winsome visited the Glades and was struck by the disparities between the east and west sides of our county. She and Michael felt a calling to not only give where they lived, but to lead by example, inspiring other area philanthropists to do the same. Their vision was to create a charity that would forever meet the needs of the community.
They invested a $50,000 seed grant to create what was then called the Palm Beach Community Foundation. It was a significant investment. $50,000 in 1972 equates to approximately $340,000 today. Their singular act of generosity exemplifies the true power of philanthropy. Michael and Winsome have inspired nearly 9,000 donors to invest in their vision. And this collective investment has grown to more than $366 million.
That's an incredible impact. Let me tell you just a few things about Winsome, because if I went over everything, we'd be here for probably a few hours. Winsome has over 40 years of experience in the philanthropic community. She is a founder of Client Earth in the UK and EU, Rachel's Network, and the Association of Small Foundations. Further, she has served on boards of a number of local and national not-for-profit corporations, including the League of Conservation Voters, Defenders of Wildlife, Garden Club of Palm Beach, Alliance for Justice, Kappa Delta Foundation, and She Should Run Foundation. To honor the indelible impact of Winsome and her late husband, Michael, today we are pleased to announce that we have renamed the Community Foundation's annual Founder Award the McIntosh Award. Please join me in welcoming the Community Foundation's founder, a local Palm Beach legend, and our exceptional guest of honor, Winsome McIntosh.
Excuse me, keep going. In recognition of her vision for our
community. Wow. Well, thank you all for this opportunity to exalt, as I am doing right now, in the tremendous success of the Community Foundation. To witness its vision transformed into a living, breathing resource for our large community is a testament to the 50 years of hard, sweat equity work and generosity of its residents far and wide. It also took an investment in a visionary leader, which we have just discussed, in Shannon Sadler. In 1971, Michael and I moved to Palm Beach to take care of my father-in-law and began developing a new family foundation. I was 24, Michael was 35. We instinctively knew that we had two responsibilities. One, to establish a national strategy for the foundation's philanthropy, and two, to leave a lasting local philanthropic legacy to a growing community. The McIntosh Foundation derived its endowment from a family business, the Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company, better known as your local grocer, A&P. The A&P was the Walmart of its time in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, with both of us having business educations and backgrounds. It was natural for us to approach this opportunity with the foundation within an organizational eye. We make a distinction between charity and philanthropy. To us, charity is addressing the immediate needs of an individual, an organization, a community, and a great many of you at this lunch represent those critically important services, be that a halfway house, a food bank, an early education project, or child services needs, just to name a few. The greater need is always for short-term solutions to a problem. These are the needs that charity addresses. Philanthropy uses the funds available to take long-term approaches to solving the cause of those short-term needs for charity. We hold up the Community Foundation as a prime example of adding a resource to a community that can have tremendous positive impact for the long term. Philanthropy is about thinking strategically, taking risk, trying new ideas, investing in people, thinking long term, learning from failure, which we have done, staying focused, seeking opportunistic ventures, embracing entrepreneurial approaches, and leveraging your resources and striving for change. Community Foundation demonstrates all of those goals as well. And they demonstrate those goals on behalf of the short-term needs of the community. Now, working with the Community Foundation through a donor advised fund is a creative way to test or try a strategy for a long-term approach to a community need or challenge. In the late 70s, I'm giving you an example of what we did. In the late 70s, early 80s, we noticed that very talented track athletes from around the state were ending their careers at the high school level. Most of these boys and girls were minorities from rural parts of Florida without the support needed to advance to college. We felt that national exposure at high school track competitions, Junior Olympics in a sense, would allow deserving student athletes a shot at college recruitment for track scholarships. For 10 years, with the help of the Community Foundation acting as the fiscal agent through our Alan J. McIntosh Fund, we took approximately 100 per year, about 1,000 overall, top athletes each year from all over the state to the National Junior Olympics meets. College recruiters began to pay attention to the Florida talent, and these hard-working, deserving students, boys and girls, found a route to college and future opportunities. Most never have been on an airplane. Most were dedicated to making the most of an opportunity, and all were winners in their events. Ultimately, about 12 of these alumni from what was called Track Florida at the time became Olympic track athletes for our nation. We introduced the first, and they all got college degrees. That's the most important thing. We introduced the first official donor-advised fund to demonstrate and encourage future donors to actively participate in their fund's strategy for community funding. I'm thrilled to note that at the 50-year mark, the Community Foundation has a remarkable 463 donor-advised funds. That's remarkable, and continues to grow. If you look closely at your Community Foundation and all the wonderful work that it does on your behalf, you will be able to identify philanthropic traits to a grant, an action, or a collaboration with a donor-advised fund that has performed this year or in any year. I'd like to leave you with this thought. Every dollar has the potential to be much more than its face value. It takes, however, time, interest, creativity, commitment, focus, and flexibility. These are the buzzwords that will help you analyze your approach to grant making. In Money Management 101, we understand the concepts of cost efficient, multiple use, and long-term gains. In Grant Making 101, we can do the same and really make a difference. It need not take millions of dollars to bring about a systemic change that will ultimately affect a large sector of your community. It does take you, though, to work your precious resources for that gain in bettering our community. The Community Foundation is an extraordinary partner in one's effort to reach the needs. They have a talented staff that work at the ground level with sound advisory capacity to steer you and your interests and efforts in any direction that you fancy. The Community Foundation is a hidden source of expertise that you, the donor, can tap in seeking to fill a community need. In a quote from Jane Wales of the San Francisco Chronicle of many years ago, "In a world of complex problems, the social sector, philanthropy and those it supports may be the only sector able to take risks, withstand criticism, and make long-term investments in the public interest. And on that note, since this is our 50th, on behalf of the McIntosh Foundation and the family, we are pleased to recognize this 50th anniversary with another $50,000 grant to be added to that original fund of Alan J. McIntosh. Thank you again for fulfilling the dream and ambition of two young, inexperienced, and accidental philanthropists. Happy 50th. Bless you.
Oh, please join us in giving Winsome a wonderful round of applause. Winsome. Yes, absolutely. Winsome, Julie and I believe that we speak for everybody here by saying thank you. You're inspiring us in word and deed, and we're standing on your shoulders, and we just want to make you proud. Thank you. Since its first gift in 1998, the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation has given nearly $30 million to the Community Foundation. And we, yes, that deserves a big hand, absolutely. And we have stewarded and distributed those dollars ever since. As many of you may know, John and Catherine MacArthur once called Palm Beach home, concentrating part of their business interest here. Their name is a permanent part of our region's history, growth, and success. And their foundation is one of the nation's largest philanthropies with assets of approximately $9 billion.
Today we are fortunate to have the MacArthur Foundation President, John Palfrey, join us from Chicago. President Palfrey is a well-respected educator, author, legal scholar, and innovator. Throughout his career, he has demonstrated a commitment to rigorous thinking, disruption, and creative solutions, often made possible by technology, accessibility of information, and diversity and inclusion. President Palfrey has extensive experience in social change spanning the education, nonprofit, and philanthropic sectors. Prior to joining the MacArthur Foundation, he served as head of school at Phillips Exeter Academy. He also has served as the Henry N. S. III Professor of Law and Vice Dean for Library and Information Resources at Harvard Law School. He was the executive director of the Berkman Klein Center for Internet and Society, which seeks to explore and understand cyberspace. President Palfrey serves on the board of the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation and is a member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences. He holds a JD from Harvard Law School, Master's of Philosophy from University of Cambridge, and a bachelor's from Harvard College. We are delighted to welcome the leader of an organization that has been integral to our own history and to the growth of philanthropy in our region. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming President John Palfrey.
Julie, thank you for this beautiful introduction, and Danita, you two are a dream team. These MCs, I think we should have a huge round of applause for Danita and Julie. They've done an unbelievable job. you can see why this has been so successful with leadership like the two of you and the history that we've heard about today. And Winsome, thank you for your visionary leadership 50 years ago. I hope that you are super proud of what you see in front of you, what you and your husband and others have wrought over that period of time. A sellout crowd, your largest crowd ever 50 years later. And it reminds me of what one of the scholarship recipients from Florida Atlantic said when she described she wanted to be part of the snowball of kindness. Doesn't this feel like a snowball of kindness that you started with the little snowflakes that are now gigantic? Anyway, congratulations for all that you have done. And what an honor it is to be here representing the MacArthur Foundation, to be in the Palm Beaches where, of course, John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur, who are the founders of our foundation, made their home after Chicago, where we are based. We are so proud to have played a little part along the way in the growth of this foundation. I suspect that the MacArthurs, were they here, they would note also that they gave the MacArthur State Park and Beach, which has been valued at over $20 million. So in the back of the envelope way that I was thinking about this, I believe the MacArthurs have put more than $50 million into this community at the time of this 50th anniversary. So I'm grateful to the MacArthur family, should anyone be here, representing them in addition to me for that extraordinary commitment. And I know that I stand between you and an 80-degree sunshine day as your keynote speaker, so I will not go for a full half hour. But I did want to describe a few of the things that MacArthur Foundation is doing as a way of demonstrating, I think, some of the philanthropy that has flowed out of this room and into the world to solve some of those most complex problems, just as Winsome said. I think we are all the product of our families and our communities one way or another, and so we've sought to do that at MacArthur Foundation. We've sought to think about the innovation that was behind these ideas 50 years ago and try to innovate within philanthropy as much as we can because we know these problems are so complex and intractable. And there really are a couple of ways that I wanted to highlight, different modes of philanthropy, which I think are each important given how complex and tricky our times are today. And I think if I can leave with one idea other than a thank you and a congratulations, the idea would be the need to combine not just great ideas, but also that persistence that I think Winsome was describing. It is not only about putting the great idea out there in somebody's head and funding that, and we do, but we have to fund the people who are going to do that work. And I think represented here are so many grantees who actually do that work. In philanthropy, we never forget at MacArthur Foundation, even though we never eat a bad meal. Our jokes are always very funny. We realize that's true of philanthropists, but we also know we're actually not doing the work. It is the students, it's Jasmine and her family that are actually doing the work and making a very big difference. It is each of the NGOs who are here that are making the difference in the community. You need that combination. It has to be the big idea, the right idea, in fact. It has to be the capital, which all of you in a community foundation and philanthropy put there, but it really has to be that persistence and hard work. So we think about those elements in our philanthropy. The thing MacArthur Foundation is most famous for is the MacArthur Fellows. For those who don't know about this, it's known in popular press as the Genius Grants. We do not call it that, but I use the term because people seem to recognize it. Every year in usually September, October timeframe, we decide upon 20 to 25 individuals who are going to get a surprise phone call. Nobody can apply for it, nobody can nominate. It's a surprise phone call, and they are told that they're a MacArthur Fellow or Genius in their mind is what they hear immediately. And they get a check for $625,000 over 5 years with no strings attached. No reporting. You never have to show up in Chicago, whether it's 17 degrees or not, which it is today, where my family is. You do not have to do anything in particular. You don't have to tell us what you did with it. It is totally no strings attached. And the idea is to support people who have just incredible ideas and just need that unrestricted support. So Lin-Manuel Miranda, also supported by the Furmans and others, would be an example. Before Hamilton, right? The idea is that we support people way early in their careers. And in fact, they can be somewhat older. There have been 70-plus-year-old people receiving the Genius Grants as well. So there's hope for everybody in this room, I'm sure. I'm sure. But can you imagine the experience, you know, late in the fall, getting a phone call from a 312 area code, and I'll tell you, people don't pick up their phones anymore, right? So it's actually tricky. So we have to use subterfuge. We have to tell them it's something else or asking for something, and then eventually they pick up, and then they realize they have been given this great award. And so giving people the money at a time when they could use it, it's like a scholarship, but it's a little different, so that they could just take time off, take a sabbatical, work on their project, put it into something else, that is a key part of what we do. but we know that's not enough. So a second thing we do is focus on strategic philanthropy. And in this case, we take problems that we know are really, really hard, and we're invested in what we call big bet philanthropy. So one of them is climate change. That is our number one biggest investment. We know there is a certain amount of time we have to get this done. It is a limited amount of time. So for a 10, probably longer, but 10-year period, we are investing in climate solutions as well as we can in the US, in India, and in China, because those are the largest emitting countries in the world. And we know if we don't get it done, along with others, that there are going to be huge problems across the board. In this case, we give chunks of money. They're often $1 million or $10 million that are smaller than the biggest grants we give, but which are intended to support the organizations that we think can take the best ideas and put them into play. So an example of that is the recent commitment around methane, which you may have read about in Glasgow, which was the COP26. So in this case, scientists and others and policymakers have realized that by reducing methane emissions really quickly, we can make a huge difference in climate change. And so by calling up other philanthropies, we came up with about $300 million and announced that in the context of the Glasgow conference. And a bunch of countries decided that they would commit to reducing their methane emissions. And the point of the philanthropy was that in many countries, people don't actually even know how to do the methane emissions. There's not the technical talent. There's not actually the science and the agriculture or the manufacturing expertise. And so what philanthropy can do in those cases is to say to a country, you can sign on to a global pact because these philanthropists will pay to help you figure out how to do it. So where we do work in Nigeria, we are funding work that's going on in Pakistan as examples. These are countries that are signing the methane pledge, but for philanthropy being able to do that from places like this, you do not have, I think, a shot at answering the climate solution that we need to bring to bear in a short period of time, in a strategic period of time. I want to acknowledge a great environmentalist who's here in front of us, John DeVillers. This is someone who has had ideas and has made it happen. I know when I worked for him many years ago, he told me that brownfields were going to be the future. He invested in brownfields, and now developers are not doing greenfields, they're doing brownfields. And next he said, we've got to get into solar, and he's now got 3 solar companies that are, of course, thriving. He told me about agrovoltaics the other day. I don't know what that is, but apparently they will be big, and his track record is very good. So I think it's a combination of people who come up with ideas, who have the time and space and the persistence to do it, who are going to make the difference. Third example is using really big bets to try to solve these problems. So a third approach that MacArthur is using is called 100 and change. And in this case, every couple of years, we're giving out $100 million at a time to take on something that's really, really big. And climate certainly could be that way. But we also acknowledge we don't have all the answers. We know that the answers are out here. All of you have the answers. And so in this case, we say to everybody who wants to, give us a submission, and we will choose one $100 million winner. The most recent one is called Community Solutions, and it actually has a tie here in Palm Beach. In this case, it was a MacArthur Genius winner, MacArthur Fellow Roseanne Hegarty, who had this idea. And over time, she's been working on this. And her idea was really simple. It was to say, we can get, in the United States, at least in 75 communities, to functional zero of homelessness. We can end functional homelessness in 75 communities in America. And she convinced us that $100 million would go a very long way to doing that. And it turns out that one of the communities that has done this best, and I suspect some of you are in this room have worked on this, is actually West Palm Beach. That you all, as part of this Built for Zero community, have done that, unlike almost any other community in the country. And what that means to be at functional zero, it has to be maintained, but it is to say you have created an environment in which nobody but for very transitory moments are in fact homeless in this community. And this is something that very few places have actually been able to pull off, but Community Solutions, working with NGOs and others here in Palm Beach, have done that, which is kind of an amazing thing. And just for a really brief video, we're going to hear from the founder of that program so you can see how West Palm Beach has been such a leader.
If your most vulnerable neighbors are falling through the cracks and ending up in this place of indignity and of abandonment, that's really about us. That's not about them. Community Solutions is a not-for-profit working toward a lasting end to homelessness that leaves no one behind. Here in the wealthiest country on earth, more than 1.5 million men, women, and children experience homelessness each year, and that was prior to the pandemic. Homelessness robs the most vulnerable members of our communities of their dignity, of their health, of their security, of their freedom, sometimes even of their lives. Homelessness is also squarely a matter of racial justice. Disproportionately, Black Americans and Native Americans constitute our homeless population, and there is no path to an equitable society that tolerates homelessness. So we launched the Built for Zero movement in January 2015 to provide the infrastructure, the guidance, the coaching, to equip communities to end homelessness. At the heart of Built for Zero and this whole approach is what we think of as a command center, a place where all of the actors in a community are gathered, solving the same problem, measuring it the same way, pooling their resources, and making decisions based on how the whole community solves the problem, not just one program at a time. So it's this dynamic system driven by data and all about collaboration and a clear end state. Already 13 communities have ended chronic or veteran homelessness, and more than 40 others are seeing steady reductions. Once you realize that you really can solve this problem and that it is so crushing, so life-destroying for people, the role of urgency in Built for Zero is about getting this work done for people, moving them out of homelessness, preventing them from experiencing homelessness in the first place, of getting people to a safe place.
When I reached out to Roseanne Hegarty and her team about this particular speech, she said, please, the situation in West Palm Beach is a model. It is something that people are looking to across the United States as a way to end functional homelessness, and that is where part of our $100 million is going to sustain this incredible work. So the thing I wanted to end with really was this last of approaches, which is community-based work. We work incredibly closely, not only, of course, with your foundation, but with, for instance, the Chicago Community Trust. In our community, we have a community foundation that is focused on addressing income inequality, many other issues, and in Chicago, gun violence, as you may know, is at just incredible proportions. There is no way that we can solve gun violence in Chicago. There is no way that we can solve climate change or solve homelessness in West Palm Beach without a community foundation and those of you who are putting these different elements together, which is to say the ideas that will actually make a difference, the persistence and the hard work to get it done, and yes, the money to get that done. And so for everybody here, no matter what your role is in this, I think this is the answer to the most complex issues in society. How do we bring people together around great ideas and give them the resources that they need to make a difference? And I believe there is hope for literally any problem that we can think up, as intractable as it may be, because of exactly what you do, Julie, what you do, Danita, every member of the staff at this community foundation, to each one of the donors and grantees and investees and scholarship recipients. You all are making a huge difference, and I really believe that we can make any of these problems go away with the right amount of combination of these factors. Thank you so much for the chance to be here with you today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. In recognition, that was very inspirational, what MacArthur does and what you do too and have done in your life. And they're lucky to have you leading their organization. In recognition of the MacArthur Foundation's transformative and long-standing support for our area's people, our environment, and our vibrant communities, we would like to welcome Winsome McIntosh back to the stage to present John with the inaugural McIntosh Award.
Wow, oh my goodness, that is so cool.
So typical.
Thank you.
Perfect.
That is so touching, and congratulations. It's such an honor to be the first of the McIntosh awardees.
So appropriate.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Congratulations, thank you all.
Thank
Happy
you.
50th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, our celebratory afternoon comes to an end. We hope that each of you leave inspired by the role of philanthropy and the combination of ideas that President Palfrey just spoke about has played in our community.
I would like to add one thing. One of our members of our investment committee and a longtime community leader had passed away this week, and I just would like to pay tribute to Ira Harris, and just a moment of silence. Ira was bigger than life, and he will be missed. So please join us again next year, February 22nd, 2023, for our Founders Luncheon, and we look forward to partnering with you as we invest in our communities for good forever. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.